This week's episode of the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast is brought to you by BioPro. Use the link down below plus code GDGD upon checkout, along with Hidden House Coffee. Go to hiddenhousecoffee.com and use code GDGD on your checkout to receive a discount. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ben.
And today we have a special guest with us, Tim Lukei. Tim, how's it going?
Doing great, man. Super stoked to be here. I've been trying to be on this podcast
Forever. Literally, we've been trying to do it for like months.
At least, yeah.
It's been a while.
Ben was like, "Can you do Wednesday?" I was like, "Yes, whatever it takes. Yes, let's just do it."
Fridays haven't worked out for us.
And normally Fridays are good. There's just been something. But
yeah.
When you text me, I'm like, shoot, I better be able to do this. Because if he asks again and I say no, that's it.
We were just about to cut you off. No,
we're like, dang, man. I'm just kidding.
It works. Here we are, finally.
Heck yeah.
Glad to be here.
Tim, you are an entrepreneur, founder, and executive director of Maverick River Collective, men's pastor at Mariners Church.
Yes.
And that's all the Mariners Church, correct? As like a whole?
Yeah, I mean, primarily Mariners Irvine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The big dog.
And then a husband and a father to 3.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Well,
yeah.
I'm stoked to be on the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. Here we go.
And he wore his rad dad's hat.
I did.
That's it. That's the Harbor Point?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it, but we started a group for their men's ministry for dads.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
And we're working on building that up, and it's become this rad biblical community of dads just trying to do their best to be good dudes, good dads, and all in for Jesus. So, yeah, I help at a lot of churches, but Harbor Point down in San Juan is one of them. Right down the street.
I say right down the street. Harrison is involved with it. Involved or just attends? Or
no,
both?
him and another guy, Alex, are the leaders of it. And I got to know them, and I presented the idea because I went to Harbor Point on a Sunday. I'm like, there is young dads everywhere.
Yes.
And none of them were really engaged beyond the weekend service. And so I pitched those two guys, and Harrison was like, yeah. And Alex he's a fantastic leader, and they're like, we got this. And
That's
so
awesome.
They do it around a fire pit every other Tuesday night, and it went from like 8 or 9 dads to probably 70 dads.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really grown. It's pretty epic.
And the yard you guys get to use is pretty dope.
It's real. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's really cool. Harrison.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, we're gonna just jump into it like we do every episode.
Yeah.
Basically, tell us about yourself and how much you want to share or little, and just we'll go from there.
Yeah. I was born in Newport Beach and grew up in Newport Irvine, and grew up in a Christian home. And I think the entrepreneurship was just because my dad was a business owner, and I was around business and ministry. And my parents were very involved in the ministry of Young Life, and that's been a big part of my story as well. Met my wife through Young Life.
Cool.
Started serving in Young Life right after college, went to Westmont College, and then came home from Santa Barbara and didn't know what I wanted to do, but just knew I wanted to work with youth in some capacity. So started volunteering with Irvine Young Life, met my wife, and got into commercial real estate, but then eventually was not sure about that career, and just started really praying, God, what do you have for me? I want to do something with purpose and meaning. I want to serve you. And a friend called me from Mariners, who was a guy I knew from Young Life, used to be the area director at Newport, and he's like, hey, we're starting a Young Life model at Mariners. We're gonna hire area directors, and we're going to have a youth ministry that pretty much rips the model of Young Life because it's so effective. I was like, that sounds amazing. I'll let you know if I know anyone. He's like, no, I'm calling about you. I was like, dude, I don't think I'm ready to be a pastor. That's not, like, I think you need to be called to do that. And thanks, but no thanks. And about 3 or 4 different coffees later and him asking me to come on staff, God was really clear through him speaking through my wife, my parents, and just realizing, like, no, he is calling me to this. And so stepped on staff at Mariners as a youth pastor, and somehow, it still blows my mind. That was 18 years ago.
Wow.
And 18 years I've been at Mariners and had multiple roles at Mariners, have grown up on staff. I was 28 and now I'm 45. And I've been the men's pastor for the past 10 years or almost 11. I was a college pastor, youth pastor, junior high for a minute. I oversaw Rooted in the discipleship that they do at Mariners. So a lot of different roles. And then the past 10 and even my story, I never have felt qualified to be a pastor. I took 2 Bible classes at Westmont because they're required, New Testament and Old Testament, barely passed either. And so it's like, how am I a pastor at like this ginormous mega church in Southern California? And so there's a quote that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. That's like my story. It's like, I have no business being in this role. But God has just used me, and by His grace, the men's pastor at the time, 10 so years ago, and a couple other people pulled me into their office and said, "We want you to be the men's pastor." And I was like, "That is so kind." But the men's ministry here at Mariners is for old people, and I am not old, nor do I know how to minister to the old. And again, God was clear that part of the reason they asked me is they wanted to make a multi-generational men's ministry. And I was, had been over college part of that time and knew a lot of young adults and kind of stepped into that role and began taking the ministry to become more, reaching 20s, 30s, 40-year-olds, because it was primarily, median age was 55 plus. And so we began to just see massive growth over time, and the men's ministry at Mariners has probably grown 200 to 300% from where we started. And we do these phenomenal retreats for guys, and we have over probably 90 men's groups that meet weekly. And we just, I just grew to have a heart to see men's hearts encounter Jesus and be transformed. It's like, this is phenomenal what happens, because you get the heart of a man, you get the whole family. And I've just seen that over and over and over again, and how it's transformed our church well beyond men's ministry. I think if you build a men's ministry, you're really building the entirety of the church, because you're building leaders for every part of the church. And so that was about a 10-year run. And then a couple years ago, God started stirring in my heart for something new, something fresh. And I just wasn't exactly sure what that looked like, but a lot of years of ministry, so there was some burnout involved, and I got some extended time one summer, and I knew that God was calling me for my ministry season to look different. And speaking of like good dad, the catalyst to a change at Mariners and the founding of Maverick River, which we'll talk about, was ultimately I needed to be more present for my family. The pastoral schedule was just really hard because you work every Saturday night and Sunday, sometimes during the week, on weeknights, and I was missing like pivotal moments in my kids' lives. I'm like, man, my kids scored a hat trick on the soccer field and I got the video. Like, that's just hard. And it's especially hard when you're not there because you're at church serving the Lord, but yet like, what is our first ministry? It's our family. So there was this tension for me. And so I just was praying out to God, like, I need to serve my family first. I love the church. I love Mariners. It's been phenomenal. But this is really hard for me. And God just was really gracious and just kind of gave me vision to multiply what we've done with the men at Mariners and help churches all over the country. And I'm like, that's a dream way bigger than me. Like, what does that look like? How do we do this? And ultimately got to see that men's ministries in the U.S. Are kind of a dying ministry. And only about 8% of churches in the U.S. have men's ministries at this point. And if you look at a lot of the data with the church, it's like almost 70-30 women to men. The engagement of the local church is primarily women. And then even in like the cultural, like our society, what's happening with men and mental health crisis and the pornography epidemic, all these things that men are kind of in crisis. I know you guys talk a lot about some of this. And so the need felt more important than ever. If you what I know is build it through the local church. If you build a men's ministry, then hopefully more men will be engaged and their lives will be transformed, like I had seen at Mariners. So just began this nonprofit. So it's 3 things. It's the coaching and equipping and training. I built a playbook. We take a church leaders or staff through this playbook, and we coach them along to build up their men's ministry to really engage men. And then we do retreats. I like calling retreats adventures, because retreats, I don't think men should retreat. I think it's about adventure. And so a really intentional experience outside the daily life, where we get away, we get on a mountain, we go to the lake, we go in the ocean, and we do some epic adventure with real intentional. In the evenings and in the mornings, we're going to dig in to what God has for us and look at God's word. And I'm sure you guys have been on like a men's retreat. These are different in that, like, some are big. So some will be a large scale man camp for multiple churches. Some is a father-son retreat, and some are like 12 guys fly fishing, shooting guns, eating good food, and worshiping together. So there's a lot of types that we do. And then lastly, I have a podcast just like you guys are. I'm just trying to inspire men to dig into honest conversations and God and following Jesus. And so that's kind of the formation of Maverick River and what I'm up to. I'm still part-time at Mariners and building this nonprofit. Like you had asked, the joy of my life is my 3 kids and being involved in their lives, and been married. It'll be 20 years and
Wow.
next
awesome.
August.
Heck yeah.
So that's a little bit of the story, and there's a lot of ways we can go with that.
100%.
I like that you said, if you capture the heart of the man, you capture the family. Because there's like I heard of this gnarly statistic, and I wish I wrote it down, but it was like if the wife becomes a believer, there's like a 20% chance the rest of the family was. And it said if the dad becomes a believer, there was like a 98% chance the rest of the family would.
Yep.
And yet, in most churches, like you said, there's only you'd say that 9% had
Allegedly 8%. I've read 8% and 10%.
Why do you think? I mean, like I'm genuinely curious, and I'm been posing this question. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that men's ministries are so neglected throughout, like, the church and Christian culture? It seems like up until hopefully, it seems like lately there's a
shift happening in real time. Some of the data that you guys, I'm sure, have seen is like what's happening with Gen Z and returning to church for the first time at a higher rate than women. And I think the scale got tipped so far in one direction of like being a man is bad, toxic masculinity, and like it almost, I'm sure that was part of some of that, but I don't actually think it's all of it. I think that it's a difficult ministry, one, to build and grow. Getting guys to be motivated and excited to do anything is challenging, unless it's sports or MMA fighting or whatever it is. There are certain things that we get excited about, but getting excited about church is a little bit interesting, and that's where I think what I basically did is build a ministry that I'd want to be a part of. Yeah. One that is really exciting and just vibrant. And so I think some of what's happened is the church is, they just don't have the margin to put into like adult discipleship ministries, like a men's or women's. But I think just naturally women are more open and engaged to go get involved at the church. If there's like a women's night or a men's barbecue, it'll probably be massively different in the attendance levels without even trying. Right. You could almost ask any church in the U.S., how's your women's ministry? And they're going to like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Flourishing.
It's flourishing. It's incredible. How's the men? Well, there's like 90-year-olds that drink coffee on a Friday and look at God's word. And so I think some of it is just, there needs to be a hunger, and in the receptivity of the man at a church will come when the senior pastor is excited about building the man. Yeah. If you look at any church with a vibrant men's ministry, I guarantee the senior pastor is fired up about men's ministry.
Yeah.
And usually the growth and the impact of the church, when there really are excited in building the men, it shows throughout the whole church. I mean, it has shown in the churches that I've got to work with, like as the men's ministry has been built up, all parts of the church are moving in the right direction. Oh, we have more youth leaders than ever. We have people serving in the parking lot. We have guys showing up and getting the chairs set up or tear down. And even tithing, we've seen there's a direction there when men are more engaged and like, this is my place, this is my church, I want to serve it.
Yeah.
So I think like I said, we're seeing that change, so to speak. But I just think there was a season there where Simple Church became a little bit more of a gear where it's like, we do groups, we do weekend service, we do outreach.
Right.
Everything else, I don't know. That's an area that we aren't sure about, or they don't have someone that steps up into that. I mean, that's probably the number one. You need at least one guy, and then build a team, and then you can build your men's ministry. Until one guy steps up, that's probably not a staff person, because the average church in the U.S. is like 65. So to have a staff person over men's is really unlikely. So when you meet a men's pastor in today's culture, it's actually quite rare. There's not a lot of us.
Yeah.
So when I find one, I'm like, dude, we got to be friends. It's like, we're a dying breed. Like, this is awesome. I have a vision to do a retreat just for men's pastors. I'm going to do it in 2026 or a men's leader. Like, I know, Ben, you lead the men's ministry at your church, and just to be around other guys with that same passion usually only turns up the volume of your fire for it, right? And you just go back and even swapping stories and best practices, or just cheering each other on, fanning each other's flame is so important. So
Jordan got roped into helping me with the men's ministry.
Here he is.
Not roped in. He wasn't attending our church when I took over. And long story short, him and his wife made our church their home church.
Awesome.
And naturally, he's obviously one of my best friends, and we do this together. I was like, sorry, dude, you don't really have a choice now. You're
part of the deal,
best
man.
friends?
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have so little friends.
You're welcome.
That's pretty,
You're welcome. But no, I don't want to lose thought on this, is because we talk about it a lot in our podcast, and you already touched on like one of the subjects of like pornography, right?
Yeah.
And what these like constraints and these worldly influences and all these things do to the modern man. You know, we're conditioned, we say a lot of the time, we're conditioned or have been conditioned to think that we have to go at things alone, right?
Yes.
Because the second you share, or the second you engage, the second you go to a men's ministry and lift your hand up because you need prayer, all of a sudden you're no longer this quote unquote masculine man.
Yeah.
You know, and again, we talk about it all the time, but what this podcast has really opened my personal eyes to is how much men deal with, but how many of us feel as if no other guy is going through it, which is the most ironic part, right? Like, we all know it, but we're just conditioned, like, suck it up, take it on the chin, right? Roll with the punches, go for the next one. And I think that has hardcore like shifted the way church is. Because I remember being a little kid going to the men's ministry with my dad, right? Promise Keepers era, like when that was like it's the big thing. And I remember seeing hundreds of guys, and we didn't even go to a big church, but Promise Keepers was such like a big thing that I remember as like a young boy going to these events and seeing these like men, right? Like my dad, especially when I was a kid, was a man, right? South Dakota, state level wrestler, hunter, like Marine, all these things. And I'm like seeing my dad on his knees praying. Yeah. And then you look over and you see Joe Schmo with the beard and the lumberjack looking dude, putting hands on another guy, praying for him.
It's powerful.
And then you lose that because of this conditioning of, oh, no. Like, you got to suck it up and you got to do it. And obviously that's going to translate to everything, but I'm rambling to get to the basic question of, statement of men's ministry is on the rise. We're seeing it in the space that we've been in for a while. And dude, the doors and the avenues and the relationships that have opened up because my Instagram algorithm, Jordan's Instagram algorithm has shifted towards this for lack of better terms, manscape, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it so much, and so many guys like yourself, Tim, doing all these amazing things. And there is this like resurgence of, let's take back being a man. Let's put God back in the center, and trying to just break and create this modern man where it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be like, hey, Tim, like, dude, I'm struggling right now. You know, that doesn't make me weaker. And it actually makes me stronger because I am now understanding and realizing, dude, you don't got it figured out. Nor were we intended and designed to carry the weight of all these things by ourselves. It's just, we weren't designed that way.
Yeah.
And so where did this conditioning come from? And, you know, how do we continue to break that cycle? I just rambled a lot, but I'm like so passionate about it.
Well, I mean, part of it, I mean, let's be real. We live in like South Orange County, right? We are the land of put on a good show. Like this is, hey, come on, I don't need help. It's me. I'm making millions.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, I got the Range Rover, I got the big house, I got the trophy wife. Everything's fine.
Right.
And the moment you say, you know, I don't got this, or I do need prayer, there's like almost a stigma, like, oh, that guy over there.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that you're finding a way to, especially like Newport, Irvine. Like I'm not calling those people out, but I mean, where I live down in San Clemente, it's the same thing. It's this just giant show.
Yep.
And it took to the church, and now it's like, okay, well, I can't ask for prayer. I can't need help. I can't show that I'm weak. And it's such a lie, dude.
Yeah.
Such a lie from the enemy. And it's cool to see people like you and see things like this where we're trying to break that away and, like you said, recapture the heart of a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a question in there, and I forgot it because I went on my little tangent.
It's a good tangent.
But I would say a good question for you too while we're on this, because you've been working with men for a long time now.
Yeah.
Way before you could have never told me 10 years ago in the life I was in 10 years ago that I would be like helping run a men's ministry or doing a podcast directly tied into being a good dude and a good dad. I would have just laughed at you. I'd been like, ha ha, that's funny. Like, no way. So in your experience over the course of the last 10 years, what are some of the most common denominators you're seeing that suppress men from being able to actually reach out, get help, and seek the Lord? Like I think that would be a good question, because I feel like it's going to be the same answers that we talk about.
Yeah, I think for one, as you were kind of sharing that, is in Orange County, we won't even just say South Orange County, Orange County as in general. But I don't really think it just is only an Orange County thing, is men put their life out of order way too often. And when you put your life out of order, everything eventually catches up to you in that order. Mm-hmm. So what I have seen time and time again, Mariners is located on the border of Newport Beach, literally Newport Coast and Bonita Canyon. Like it is Irvine and Newport. And so when a guy puts their life out of order, usually with men, it's career first, right?
Yeah.
It's chasing dollars and what the world has made them believe will bring fulfillment and happiness. And so I think, you know, even if they're a good dude and want to be a good dad, it's sometimes it's not even their fault. It's just to keep up with all the expenses of life, but they're just working so hard to build wealth and become a C-suite person or a business owner, CEO, whatever it is. And all of a sudden they're at the top, and it's incredibly isolating and lonely, which you guys kind of touched on. But it's also, okay, I got it. There's multiple cars in my garage. I live in Newport Coast, and my wife left me. My kids won't talk to me, and I'm miserable and I'm lonely. But there's more money in my bank account than I've ever had. And so they put their life out of order where their relationship with Christ wasn't first, and then their marriage was secondary in the name of I'm trying to provide. Mm-hmm. And then they're just not engaged with anything with their kids because they're quote unquote too busy. And so the whole thing is just completely out of order and a mess. And so I think, to answer your question, Ben, I just see that most is just like, and not, that's the extreme, right? The more common is probably just slightly out of order. Like, oh, I'm trying though. I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and then it just, their priorities get rearranged, and then their whole life gets thrown off. So oftentimes men are looking for the worldly desires that they think will bring happiness, that simply do not make us wholehearted men of God. And so we talk a lot about surrender. Like, full surrender is making Jesus the full Lord and lordship to Jesus Christ, and then things go back in order. And then, in Maverick River, the name Maverick for me is I want men to be mavericks for Jesus. And that's based off Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed the renewing of your mind. And so when a guy recognizes, like, I don't need to go after the things the world is saying will fulfill me. Actually, if I don't conform, I will find true fulfillment. And then I will be a great follower of Jesus, and I will integrate that into my workplace. I'll be a spiritual leader in the home. I'll love my wife and humbly lead all parts of my life. And then all of a sudden, ooh, is that weak? Going back to no, actually, that not conforming to this world at this point is far from weak. It's actually quite courageous. And so I think that's where I always want to encourage men. I mean, you talked about a little bit about isolation and loneliness for men. I think that's part of one of the biggest problems we're seeing with guys is thinking it's weak to raise their hand. I need help. I need prayer. But what do we see time and time again when someone says, man, I'm struggling with this? Usually there's 3 other guys that goes, me too, man.
Yeah.
And that the power of another guy going, I'm struggling with that too, is massive, because you all of a sudden go, I'm not alone in this. Wow. We can now go shoulder to shoulder, lock arms, and take on life together. And so I think some of that I see often is the power of community, the power of biblical brotherhood. And that's where the real magic happens. And putting on a big men's event is really amazing, but really when men are transformed, oftentimes it's in a circle, right? Like when we're truly authentic and sharing life with each other and get to like hold each other up and pray when one guy's struggling, and we get to like, hey, we got you, and you check in. And so that's where I've seen the most life change is when we give men opportunities to raise their hand. We have a value that says we want to create environments for men to make courageous decisions. So that can be a small group environment, that can be a retreat, that can be a large men's gathering, but a courageous decision could be first and foremost showing up. For some guys, showing up at anything to do with the church because of whatever baggage they have with the church or a person, just showing up, or then maybe raising their hand and going, I want to take a next step, or I want to give my life to Jesus, or I surrender, or I need prayer, whatever that may be, or I'm struggling. Those are courageous decisions. And then that's the beginning of where God begins to do the work that he does. So that was maybe the answer, or...
That
was really good.
It's great. And I think obviously there's a lot more details that we could dive into in each of those. But I like how you said when your life is not in order.
Yeah.
And I think that so often I find myself having to recheck my balance,
No doubt.
right? And because I do want to provide for my family, I do want to do these things. I want to be the good husband. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a successful business owner. I want. And sometimes I have to like check myself, or God checks me, or my wife checks me.
Right.
And is like, wait, well, you give everybody else your best, and then you come home sometimes and you're giving us your last. And I'm like, oh man. And she never does it in a condescending, digging way, but it's more of like it's a gentle reminder to me where I'm like, dang, I just spent 13 hours of my day giving everybody else my best. And I'm coming home and I'm doing what I say is the opposite of what we should be doing.
That's right.
And it's those moments where you can either look at yourself and defend yourself and be all, defensive, which obviously shows your posture of your heart's in the wrong place. But you could also sit back and be like, you know what? You're right. I am a little burnt right now, but that doesn't matter. Those 3 children that are waiting for daddy to come home deserve your best.
That's it.
And so I like how you said when your life is out of order, like everything else is out of order. And it's a reminder that for me personally, if I don't start my day in the Word, it doesn't set my day up the way it needs to be set up.
Right.
And obviously there's mornings you miss it, right? But then you gotta make that conscious effort to step back into that place. And, maybe it's I get to work and I read my Bible real quick over a cup of coffee. It didn't happen at 5 a.m., but it happened later.
What do you, because you said you're helping men get their life when they get just even slightly out of order, getting back into order. I mean, we've said this phrase before, like you can be doing the right thing and it's the wrong thing, where it's like, just like you were saying with the pastoral burnout, where it's like you're doing the right thing, but it at your family's, at the expense of a family or something like that. What are some like things that you use to help men figure out that maybe things are slightly out of order and then help them to get back in order? Do you have like a few things that you normally tell men or?
Well, one of the easiest things, I think you guys are both married with kids. So one of the scariest questions that you can ask to figure out if your life's in the right order is your wife, right?
Yeah,
like they will tell you right away, you are out of order. You have spent, you've been working 12-hour days and we barely see you. And by the way, I feel like a single mom. Hey, your attitude and the way you've treated me and the kids is not representing one who represents Jesus in this home.
Yeah.
They'll tell you right away and it'll be painful. It's a scary question to ask, but probably the best person for a gut check. Secondly, this is getting into the good dad part. And I actually think it's a really good practice depending on the age of your kids. Although I would argue you can ask even a little one, like, how's daddy doing at being your dad? Like, where can I be, a better dad? And I'm always trying when I'm not, like, if I overreact or get angry or whatever, snap, I try to model forgiveness and go, hey, the way that I just like handled that, I'm sorry. And then, I think it's really important to ask some of those kind of questions, like, hey, what's an area that I could be a better dad to you? Or what's something that's going on in your life and that I could help with? Or, where could I show up differently for you? And obviously you change the language depending on the kid and the age. But man, I think that's one of the easiest ways to kind of figure out, like, where are we as far as in the right order? And then I think, and me included, Ben, you're like, man, sometimes that creeps out of order. Same. Like, oh man, like I gave my best all day at work, and then I came home at like just not the best. So oftentimes we don't even do a good self-reflection and a self-audit and look at ourselves and go, like, have I like been an awesome husband this week or a father this week? And kind of an honest like assessment, go, no, not really. I've been off. I've just, and that's where, so I help guys just do some self-reflection. I help guys just like, man, have you asked your wife? Have you asked your kids? And then usually, honestly, if I just go like, hey, how do you think you're doing? Let's be real. They can get there pretty quick. So, but we just get so busy and caught up with the speed of life. Sometimes we don't stop to slow down and going, man, like, I really haven't shown up at my best. And sometimes that's even at work. Like, I'm not giving my best to anybody. And that's because I'm not even spending any time abiding in Christ. I'm just off. And so that's usually how I kind of work that out. And a lot of times it's really easy to see depending on the proximity of the guy that I may be talking to. Like, if I know him enough, I'm like, dude, you've been working your butt off, which is awesome. You're grinding, but like, is that healthy for you? And is it sustainable? And how are you doing really? How's your wife like that? And so obviously you need to have the right to talk, to speak into someone's life.
Yeah.
But I think those are the ways that I would best. I mean, first and foremost is take the time to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And then if you have the courage to ask your wife, just be prepared.
I like that.
Take it graciously.
Yes.
What's up, guys? Quick break. This is Jordan from Good Dude, Good Dad. And huge shout out to our sponsor, BioPro. Ben and I have been on for a while now. And we actually both kind of ran out at the same time, which was funny. So we had a little break. And I could tell you what, once we hopped back on, man, we were feeling so much better. We were just talking about how we're sleeping better. I feel it in my recovery, hanging out with the kids, trying to get back in shape. I was driving up to Northern California and back, and so I don't feel the fatigue that I would normally feel, all thanks to BioPro. So use the code down below to get a discount on your order. Next, Hidden House Coffee. Use code GD to get yourself 1, 2, 10 bags of coffee. You gotta stay hyped. We're working on something pretty cool with them. Hopefully have some Good Dude, Good Dad coffee. But thank you guys for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And now back to the show. So hopping back into it, I remember, like Ben was saying earlier, he remembers going to Promise Keepers with his dad. I remember going on those retreats with my dad as a kid. And I remember like how impactful that was to do father-son combos and to do things of that nature. And I honestly, like, that's one of the things, because my oldest is a boy, one of the things I'm most excited for is to start doing that kind of stuff with him as soon as he's old enough. Like, what is the importance of doing the father-son retreats, taking your kids out and doing things, especially, I mean, I know that speaks a lot to dads with sons. Not everybody, obviously, has a boy, but like, what do you see as the significance and the importance of that in a men's ministry and doing that with your son and that?
Yeah, I think we just did our second annual Rad Dad Dude Ranch and this amazing camp out in Barstow, of all places. But there's tons of incredible activities that we got to do. But one of the things I tried and actually was really cool is it's 24 hours. It's just one night. So it's super quick. But it's amazing how much we pack in that short amount of time. And I even say for the dads, like, hey, part of the experience starts when you pull out of your driveway. Mm-hmm. You know, that 2-hour whatever to Barstow might be some of the richest part of the retreat or the way home. Because now they're going to be, the boys are going to be all lit up on what they just experienced. And part of that is it's easier it's an easier access point to go, hey, we get there Saturday at 10 a.m. and you'll be home by Sunday at 11 a.m. or noon. And we've also done it Friday to Saturday night, but that's a little bit tricky because all the Friday night flag football sports and all that the guys have to take off work, pull your kid out of school early. But the importance is all the things you'd expect, having intentional time with a father and a son, or a lot of guys brought 2 sons. Mm-hmm. And the ages right now that I've done was 7 to 13. And so the moment you get there, you check in, you drop your bags in your cabin, and the activities start. Like, it's jam-packed because these boys are full of energy and they want to play hard. And by the end of this thing, dads are absolutely cooked and just like zombies because they're doing all of it too. But it's so much fun. I mean, in 24 hours, they had the opportunity to go horseback riding, canoeing, bows and arrows, axe throwing, BB gun range, fishing, rock wall. I mean, there's all these things we do in that short amount of time. And then, of course, there's a lot. And there's a couple meals, and there's a tri-tip dinner, which is killer. But then in the evenings or Friday or Saturday night, we have like a program, chapel or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like basically like a youth group, but for dads and their boys. And so there's fun, silly games. We worship a couple songs. And then I'll usually do about a 12-minute message. And even 12 minutes with a 7-year-old is a little bit long. So they're really engaging and they're really fun. But it's biblical, and I'm setting up the dads for a 15-minute time to go break out with just dad, a really intentional time where there might be questions the dad's just simply hasn't made the space or time to do. Nothing wrong with any dad, but it's like, you know, the first one was about that God is a mighty warrior. And it's the Zephaniah 3:17 passage, and that God is this mighty warrior ready to rescue and save. And so what do you think when you think about God? You think about a warrior, and then I moved it into fear. So one of the questions, like, what's something you're scared of? Both for dad to answer and both for boy to answer. And for a dad, for the first time, he might hear some of the things his boy is nervous about, is scared about. And then there's an opportunity to talk about that God is a mighty warrior here to save us, rescue us. And so just that intentionality of a conversation might be the most intentional, meaningful, spiritually guided conversation that dad has had, depending on the father, and how intentional he is in being the spiritual leader of the home. And there's a couple, 15, 20 minutes of that. And then we come back and we have we finish out the time with a little bit of reflection, like, what'd you hear? What'd you learn from dad? And what are some cool things you're experiencing? And then we go and continue playing and doing all this fun stuff. We did a giant hayride out into the middle of the desert.
That's cool.
There's a bonfire, and the boys get to do branding on a piece of wood. All these really memorable moments with dad. And so those moments aren't always, they're really different than maybe just attending and watching your boy play baseball or a soccer game. Yeah. It's really intentional conversation centered around God's word. And then you're around these other dads and other boys.
Yeah.
And so they're just having the time of their life running around. And most people, at least in Orange County, aren't used to horseback riding in the desert. And that's pretty freaking killer. And so there's just things that they'll never forget, and that special time with dad, and the impact is massive. And this is the second one. What I realized is it's uprooting for a lot of dads, the brokenness of their father. Mm-hmm. And that was something I didn't expect this time. And then going, my dad, I didn't have a dad, or my dad would have never done this. I never had anything like this with my dad. And the pain of their father wound was kind of uprooted. And then because this was around a meal, we got to pray for a dad who was really kind of struggling with his own, knowing he needed to have a conversation with his dad, and how painful that would be. So the impact went far beyond just me and my boy. It was in my own story, in my pain with my father, and that got reflected from a few other guys, and I'm sure a lot of guys felt that too. It's like this wouldn't happen with my dad, and that's actually part of the reason they're there. They're like, I'm going to break this cycle of the way that my dad was. I'm going to be there for my boy. So those are just, I feel like we're just getting going on what does that look like in that part of the ministry, and I think there's a lot more to it that's coming with the Rad Dad portion of the things, and even launching Rad Dad ministries within men's ministries at some of the churches I'm working with has been amazing to see. Just it's the same thing we were talking about before, guys. It's like just getting in a circle and going, oh, you're exhausted and it's really hard to help with homework and pay the bills and all these other things too. And like, oh yeah, I just felt alone in that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a place where other guys are struggling just like me with this hardship of how do I do all the things and do them well?
Yeah.
And so it's for another dad to go, yeah, it's been really hard to balance work, marriage, and parenting. That's really hard to do, and to score a good grade in all three. Gosh. So having other brothers to just like talk that out and be encouraging with each other is huge.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
When I think it keeps pointing back to a lot of the guests we're having. And I feel like we're just going to keep sounding like a broken record, but it is true in the sense of the accountability that we need, the brotherhood that we need, like to be able to share and partake and create these spaces that men realize, like, yo, like there's so many of us that are dealing with this. There's so many of us that have 5 years of experience on me. I'm going to be there. Like, why don't you learn from that? If it was in your job, in your career, and, you had a senior VP wanting to pour into the copy guy, like that copy guy is going to they're going to soak everything up.
Yep.
Why don't we do that in our walks with the Lord? Why don't we do that as fathers, as husbands? You know, like, why don't we do that as men?
Yeah.
And again, we're seeing more and more that we are starting to do that. But this just notion in past views of like a man needs to be this boulder and this rock. Like, I fully believe you do need to be those things.
Yeah.
But you can't be those things without a good foundation.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how strong that rock is, right? If it's not on a good foundation, it's gonna break at some point. And that's like what we're seeing through this podcast and through the relationships we're having. And it's just nice to hear again in a different way from somebody that's been doing this for a decade. Like, that's a long time to be in this space. Like, we're only at a year and a half, 2 years, you know. 10 years ago, I just wasn't even a dad yet, you know. And
Wasn't a good dude 10 years ago.
yeah, you know.
But how far you've come.
Let
And
alone a good dad.
That's what it is, though. And now being able to sit and share those experiences instead of hoarding them to yourselves and not sharing in part, like, it's crazy to me. But I'm so stoked that we're seeing it moving in the direction, and it's just refreshing. And I know the power of a dad in a home is just so like crazy when you look at statistics and when you talk to, you know, Santa Ana cops, and, you know, some of the most common things they see is the fatherless homes are the ones that have a lot of, you know, not a lot, and I don't want to stereotype, but a lot more of the issues, right?
Yeah.
There's the kids out on the streets banging because dad's not around, or dad was and dad's now in jail, or he's dead, or whatever. You know, the fatherless homes and what they see in those homes is crazy.
Fathers have an impact, you know.
Massive.
Fatherlessness versus, you know, you can even have a dad and he's not a present dad, and that's still gonna be just as damaging, if not sometimes more damaging, to have someone that's there and not there all at the same time. You know, fatherlessness is, I mean, that's why we started this, you know?
So I think it's 1 in 4 kids are without a father. And the data is like staggering.
Yeah.
When you look at a kid without a father and what that looks like as far as their education journey, the pain, the criminal things that happen. I mean, it's just staggering how the impact of a father and his presence and intentionality. And I'm just beyond grateful that we are seeing a shift, and we're seeing more ministries and initiatives to build up men to be great fathers, and even like your guys' podcast and what you're doing, and encouraging men, like, step in and be what God's created you to be in the home. Yeah. When you build the home, it changes everything, really. And I think it starts with a man. Yeah. I mean, you started with that data about when a father is walking with Jesus and how that changes for their kids. I know this is similar but different. I know that if a mother goes to church, and not the father, it's like 3% that as an adult your kids will, you know, as your kids grow up as an adult, they'll go. But if a father goes to church, it goes up to like 62%. I think it is. Insane, yeah. And then if a mother and father attend church together, it goes in like mid 70s that they're going to attend churches. So we're talking about legacy impact. Yeah. In the way that we lead our homes towards Jesus. So it's no small thing for us as guys to really be, and it's biblical. We're called to be spiritual leaders of the home. Yeah. So what does that look like? And sometimes we need some, what does that look like? How do I do that? Yeah. And so I always want to encourage guys, you know, just start by talking to your kids about Jesus. Start by praying together. Start by asking, you know, where can I be praying for you? What's going on? And then don't be afraid to read God's word together. I read scripture with my kids every night, and I'm actually working on a very specific spiritual leadership tool in the home for a dad. It's a devotional geared towards kids, but the dad does it. Yeah. It's a book for kids. It's for dads. That's cool. That I think will be really a fun thing once I get it done. It takes a long time.
I love that though. And it's true, man. Like I would say like 80% of the time, because I'm not home a couple nights a week. Our daughter's obsessed with reading a devotional before bed.
Yeah.
But that's because, my wife did such a fantastic job. To my horn, I've done a great job at making those things
Priority.
a priority. And for a while it was no, we're doing this, or no, we are praying before bed because that's what we're called to do. That's what we get to do with you.
Yeah.
And now our 6.5-year-old, if we don't read her devotional book before bed, we hear about it. Well, we're not. You didn't. We're supposed to read our Bible.
It's not bedtime.
And
We didn't do the TiVo.
And it's one of those things where it's a challenge sometimes, because sometimes you're like, dude, we let you guys stay up an hour and a half later.
No, we're
Y'all
tired.
are acting crazy.
Yeah.
We're tired, but I guess we're reading the devotion, and it's that book the church gave them, the thing.
Yeah.
We started it, I don't know, several months ago now, but I think we have 2 stories left in the whole book.
That's
and
cool.
Our daughter read half of it probably on her own.
wow.
Look out loud to us.
Yeah.
And we make the boys sit and try to, well, dude, they're wild. They're 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But we try to make them sit and listen. So we're building that
rhythm.
that rhythm now, that muscle memory, hopefully, that they'll be able to carry on. But the intentions behind a dad is real.
Yeah, we have a kids Bible that I started with one of my kids when they were really little, that is now torn and has tape all over it. I mean, my kids are 5 and 3 and 1, and I remember one night my son goes, "I want to read tonight," and he turned to Jonah and the Whale because that's like his favorite one, and we had read it so many times that he can't read, but he knew every word.
That's
and
cool.
so he
Nice.
sat there and he read us Bible, and literally it was word for word the story that we had gone over that many times that it was so ingrained in his head that he could do it spot on. And
That's
it was
And he's going to remember that.
he's gonna remember that. So man, you already gave us the answer to that one actionable step. You said pray with your family, be present. Is there anything else that you would add to a man who's trying to be a good dude and a good dad?
Yeah, I think one of the other ones, and there's a lot of things we can do as men to model and be a spiritual leader in the home. Every opportunity that it makes sense to pray with your kids, pray with your kids. Before I drop them off at school, we pray over the day. Before bed, meals, all that time. Just model that it's just the normalcy of talking to God. Mm-hmm. And then the other that wasn't mentioned is just how we show how to love our spouse, right? Mm-hmm. So our kids are watching how daddy treats mom, and there's a lot to be said about them. There's people say the best parenting you can do is showing your kids how to love one another and how important that is. And so I think that, spiritual leading of the home is your kids, but also leading your wife. We're called to do that as well. So just spending time in that way with your spouse, looking at God's word together, reading a devotional, praying over the day. But then obviously your actions are going to speak louder than anything.
Yeah.
And that goes with the way that we treat them and the way that we treat our spouse. So you might be phenomenal at those rhythms of doing the devotional before bed and the prayer rhythms. But if your actions aren't, if you're still kind of a really short-tempered dad, that's a problem. That's not showing Jesus. I when my kids screw up or whatever, and as do I tried to actually use moments of showing grace.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't deserve to play your Switch right now, but I'm going to let you. Here's why you don't deserve it, but that's okay. We're going to move past it. Modeling forgiveness, modeling kindness, and even when they're turds, just showing love.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a lot more difficult than... I have a 13, an 11, and an 8-year-old, so sometimes that can be not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think one thing, too, I want y'all listening to this to, hear is, all 3 of us don't have it figured out.
Oh, no.
The things we're sharing and the ideas or the concepts and the principles that we have are not something that we're experts in. I shouldn't say that. I believe that there are experts in these things, but we're not perfect in.
100%.
We're striving to constantly be the expert and to change and adapt and to show, when we are wrong and to own those things and to model love and to model respect and forgiveness and grace. But I want you to remember, like, it's a work in progress. We're all work in progresses. If you're ever listening to something and they're telling you that, they do all these things 100%, obviously we're not dumb. We know that's a lie.
Yeah.
But just remember to give yourselves grace and to remember that, like, if you are a short-tempered dad, like I dealt with short-temperedness for a long time when I got out of the Marine Corps. Thankfully, I got it out of my system before I became a parent, but like I dealt with it, and my wife got to see some of that.
Yeah.
And if you are in that season, it does take a lot of like self-reflecting and that honest, vulnerable look at yourself.
That's right.
To be able to want to even change or move or pivot. And the biggest takeaway for me in every episode we have is just be willing and open to actually see what's going on, to actually look inside and internalize and process, like, hey, is my heart posture right now healthy? Is the way I'm communicating to my spouse, to my kids, to my friends, to my coworkers healthy? And to your point, Tim, of like things being out of order, like you'll quickly discover that, like when it comes to being a parent, like give grace. Like I try my hardest to be a good dad. I really do. And I fall short a lot. Like my 6-year-old the other day, she's a helper. She loves helping. And this is, to show you guys that I'm real too. I asked her to grab me the small white vacuum. I was vacuuming out the Sprinter. And she just heard white vacuum, and being a big helper that she is, she ran inside, grabbed me this big old stick broom vacuum, but I just needed the handheld. And I had a day. It was just no excuses, but I had a day. And she brings me this vacuum, all happy that she got it for me. The vacuum's 2 times the size of her, and carried it all the way out there. And my response was, why would you bring me that? That was my response in the moment. And I was like, ooh, like instantly I felt it. I was like, dude, that was such a bad move. But I was like, what? And I proceeded to go, right? Like, I was like, why did you bring me that? Like, I needed the small white vacuum. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Right. And her look was just like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I just like grabbed the vacuum, kept doing my thing. And then I like got out of the van, and I could just feel the laser eyes from my wife, because she like was on the other side of the van. She was like, good move, And
feel good about that one?
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Because we have that relationship,
Yeah.
And so what I did is like, I proceeded to just finish what I was doing. I didn't stop what I was doing right away, right? I proceeded to do what I was doing. I knew it. I felt it. I looked at my daughter and, just kind of like blew her a kiss. And we always do this to each other. And then about, I don't know, half an hour later, I pulled her aside separately from everyone else. And I was like, hey, when I responded to you that way in the van, like, how did that make you feel? And she looked at me like with like this is one of those moments Dad's going to ask me.
Yeah.
And because I have made that a practice. And she said, honestly, Dad, it really hurt my feelings. And I was like, as it should. I was like, I am so sorry. Like I should not have reacted that way. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. And I was like, do you forgive me? And she was like, yeah, Dad, I'm always going to forgive you. And she's like, I love you. And she was like, but thank you for talking to me. And I'm like, dude, you're 6, right? So people that think a 6-year-old can't process and understand, like you're wrong. And I'm sharing that to say is like, dude, we all in this room do it. The person listening does it. Yeah. It's how we respond in those moments.
That's right.
And, like the big old like hug and grin and kiss she gave me after I apologized and owned it. I didn't make an excuse for myself. I didn't do any of that. I just said I was wrong and I owe you an apology. And, I gave her in that moment permission to correct me. Right. I was like, hey, if I ever do that to you again, like you have permission to say, Dad, that's not okay. And this was a couple weeks ago, and she has done that when she thought something wasn't okay. And I was like, oh, I did tell you that, but you took it out of context a little, But anyways, all I'd say is like, guys, we're all dealing with things. We all got to work on it. We all got to continue to want to be better.
Yeah. Tim, if people are looking where to find you or want to get a hold of you, where would be the best way to do that if they want to find out about rad dads? What's
Maverick.
the Maverick?
Yeah, so the easiest is maverickriver.com. And on there, you know, there's some of the things that we do. Rad Dad isn't really on there because it's kind of its own entity within building a men's ministry, but that could change. But as far as where to find me, maverickriver.com, we do have a podcast.
Yeah, you got to check out his podcast.
Check out the podcast that, you know, is similar but different in many ways. Sometimes we do just really get specific about parenting and fatherhood, but sometimes we talk about men's ministry, and a lot of times it's similar to you guys, just hearing people's stories and how God's changed their life. And so you check that out. But those are the main places that you could find out more and what we're doing and the different adventures that we go on. And I'm hoping to do a few more trips in 2016 or 2026.
And we're gonna get on one.
It?
We're gonna get on one. I promise. It's gonna happen.
Oh, dude, I would love to have. I mean, we should do a good dude, good dad just retreat.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to go. Jordan, I was telling him about the September one and just.
Oh, so man camp. Yeah. Man camp, obviously, we want Mesa men there next year. But what I was thinking is more small scale, like 15, 20 guys.
Which is even more awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah,
But-
I'm down. I love it.
Yeah.
Ben,
Good job,
thank
my
you as
man.
always.
Tim, thank you
Thank
for
you,
finally
guys.
fitting us into your schedule.
No, thanks for having me, being gracious. It was an honor. You guys are doing amazing work, and I'm really proud of what you guys are doing and
Likewise.
encouraging lots of dudes to be good dudes and good dads. So
Thank
praise
you.
God.
Yeah.
Guys, check out the show notes down below. I will link Maverick City down there. And as always, remember, be a good dude.
Did you say Maverick?
Maverick,
City?
oh, I'm sorry, Maverick Collective.
I can't
Maverick
sing.
River.
Maverick, oh my
Maverick
gosh.
City is dope though.
Maverick River Collective.
Yeah.
Maverick City.
You're
probably
Fantastic
listening to
worship
them.
song.
We're not perfect. And this is the
Has
prime
been-
example.
We're all broken. Chief sinner.
Be a good dude. Be a good dad. I'm going to go take a nap. All right.
Yeah.